What is poppin'? Drip TCG in this bitch! And today we have the much requested, highly waited for. Hold on, I gotta do something real quick. There we go. Alright, we got the highly requested odd-eys profile update. So, first things first, actually, before I say anything else, before anybody clicks off this motherfucking video, yo, Konami, if you're watching this, please, we gotta get this card reprinted. Currently, it's only a jump promo, if I'm not mistaken. So, only people in North America can use it. So we gotta get Konami's attention, you know? So that they can get this reprinted so that everybody can use it. So, yeah, I wanted to get that out of the way. Now, onto the actual video. Look, the full deck list is in the description if you just want to look at the deck list. There's also timestamps for the whole video. So if you just want to skip to any particular part, just look at the timestamps in the description. Let's get into it. So, truth be told, I haven't made that many changes to the deck. So if you just want to learn how to play the deck, or you want to learn about certain cards that I might not explain in this video, then I definitely recommend you check out my earlier video on how to play the deck, because I'm gonna try to not repeat anything that was already said, since I think that my other video is still a very good video in terms of how to play the deck, and I explain most of the cards. In this video, I'm gonna explain pretty much just the cards that I have changed, you know, the cards that I've added. And I'm gonna take this video as a chance to actually explain a little bit more of the odd-eys strategy and some things that you can actually do in game and things that can come up and scenarios you gotta watch out for. What's the game plan? You know, deep dive a little bit more into how to actually play the deck. Yeah, but if you want a card by card, definitely just check out my other video. Anyways, let's get to it. 3. Odd-eys Arc Pendulum Dragon. Still the best card in the deck. Actually, I want to talk about it a little bit more, to be honest. Yo, it's so ridiculous because this card is not only good tactically, you know, because basically this is your engine, pretty much. You know, this gives you access to your whole deck, but also it's actually your best beater in terms of monsters you can actually pendulum summon out. Because yes, there are other monsters in my main deck with higher attack, but none that are level 7 or lower. And this guy being 2700 attack instead of 2500 like most of the other odd-eys cards actually comes up, especially now in the current meta with everybody running Despia and stuff, and a lot of things having exactly 2500 attack. This dude actually having 2700 comes up. So, you know, it's pretty cool because it's literally your best card defensively because of its scale effect, but it's also your best card, or one of your best cards offensively, at least in the main deck as well, because of its attack value. So I fucking love this card. It's actually insane. I actually noticed yesterday, funny enough, the card art on this card is based off of YUGIOH's pendant. If you look at it real closely, like the horn things coming out of it is basically just YUGIOH's pendant. But yeah, 3 copies of this card's actually insane. Wins you get every game. It's stupid. Then 3 copies of Summoner's Art, which is basically just 3 more copies of Arc Pendulum. So, you know, that's still the same. Then I am still running 4 Supreme King Dragon Darkwurm and 4 of the Gates. So yeah, that pretty much hasn't changed. Then I am running these 6 cards as my low skill odd-eys. So I used to be running this at 2. Now I'm running it at 1. Yeah, you only need 1. You know, I used to be running 2 because, come on, you know, it's an odd-eys deck. But truth be told, you don't actually need 2. But you do still need at least a 1-of to have it searchable, because it does come up, and later at the end I'm going to talk about, you know, I'm going to talk about this interaction a little bit more. But it does come up where you have to search this so he can pop himself in the end phase and then trigger Arc Pendulum. So you still need to run the 1-of, but yeah, you don't need more than that. This thing burns a lot, very stupid. Negate extra deck stuff, so yeah, very good. And also in my last profile, I mentioned that this wasn't necessary, because, you know, this was just to go into synchro plays because I could, you know, because you can, but you didn't need to run it. But now it's actually very, very, very important to run this card, but I'll explain later on why it's important. But this card, very important. I would not cut it anymore. Alright, so then I have my search cards. I'm still on 3 Sky Iris, well 4. I actually could consider cutting the terraforming because you don't, you know, the only times hands that are kind of rough is when you draw multiples of these. I would still obviously run the 3 iris, but the 4th one might not be necessary. If you actually do the math on 4 copies of this, you'd be drawing at least 2 of them, about 1 in every 12 duels, which isn't that often, but it's not uncommon either. So, you know, definitely something you might want to keep in the back of your mind. But yeah, 3 Sky Iris, 3 Odd-Eys Revolution, stupid, not once per turn. 3 Spiral Flame Strike, also stupid and not once per turn. 1 Duelist Alliance for the same reason as before. And 1 Performapal Skullcrobat Joker. So this is one of the new cards I've added into the deck. You know, if you want to look at it this way, it's pretty much like the 40th card. That's why I'm only running 1 of it. It's not like I'm trying to, it's not like I was trying to put him in. It's not like I want to put more of him. Because still, Darkwurm is a much better normal summon than Joker most of the time. Strictly because this searches me Odd-Eys cards, but I already have a billion other ways to either search or just hard draw them. So getting to Odd-Eys cards isn't that much of an issue. But, you know, it's still a search, it's still a +1, it's still a normal summon that I can use for going into Beyond the Pendulum, or the other link I play, which is Proxy F Magician. So, you know, it's a good card, but at least for Odd-Eys, I don't really need more than 1. It's just there because I needed to put something in, and it's probably the best card to put in when you got a blank space in your deck list. So yeah. So I do have the brand new Odd-Eys Pendulumgraph Dragon, which looks fucking beautiful, by the way. Hold up, does this look even better when I... Sheesh! Yo, look at that. Alright, so this card is really good, but you only need to play 1 for 2 main reasons. Number 1, it's absurdly searchable. You have at least 12 other cards that search it, but in addition to hard drawing it. But not only that, it's only really good going first, and some very, very, very rare scenarios going second. But even then, you know, since it's only good for going first, you know, it's only a card that you only ever want to search. You don't necessarily want to hard draw. And in addition to that, this guy can't be Pendulum summoned from the extra deck. He can only be Pendulum summoned from the hand, which does come up some hands. It's rare, it's not often, but it does sometimes come up when you like open this plus Sky Iris and Arc Pendulum and you don't have anything else to pop. So, you know, it's not like I want to max out on this card because it's not the best card to draw. You know, if I just want a low skill Odd-Eys or just any random Odd-Eys card, I'd rather see any of these, which can actually be summoned from anywhere. This guy's a little bit more restrictive, so again, you only need 1 to search when you're going first. That's all you need. Phantasma, same as before. Odd-Eys Dissolver, same as before. Odd-Eys Wizard, the actual MVP of the deck. I'm going to talk about him more at the end. Card's very stupid and not once per turn. Shout out to every not once per turn card in the game. Call By and Triple Tactics, same as before. And Upstart Goblin and Ignite Reload because 38 card consistency, baby! So yeah, that's basically the main deck. Pretty much the only 2 cards that are different from the 4 are Odd-Eys Pendulumgraph Dragon and Skullcrobat Joker. These are the only 2 differences in the main deck. So on to the extra deck. 2 Odd-Eys Vortex because your opponent always banishes the first one through some stupid means. 1 Gatling Ghoul because this dude wins games. Very stupid. 1 Starving Venom because you should always have a card that gets to very high attack value so you can beat over stuff that you can't otherwise get over. 1 Borreload Furious Dragon comes up in the grind matchups. Now, here we go. Synchros. The goo, the sauce, the salsa, the spice. Yo, low-key, this card is actually stupid. I know most of y'all ain't never even seen this card. You don't know what the fuck this does. Yo, this card has 2 effects. Firstly, I'm never synchro summoning this card, so I'm never gonna use the first effect. I only have this for the grave effect. Actually, hold up. Alright, so before I continue, hold up. Massive shout out to Liam Crew in the comment section of my last video. He provided a very insightful comment that is what inspired me to play this. Basically, when you use either of their effects, of these guys as monster effects, you basically get to Foolish Burial. I mean, you know, I'm kind of skipping steps, but basically you have access to any Synchro, Xyz, or Fusion Dragon monster in the game, specifically with a grave effect. So I started looking at all the motherfucking Synchro, Xyz, and Fusion Dragon monsters in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! With grave effects, and that is how I got to this. This thing says, right here, you can target one monster you control, special summon from the extra deck. Equip this card from your graveyard to it. When an attack is declared involving the monster equipped with this card, you can draw one card. Yo, very simple, but actually very, very strong. Because obviously, Yu-Gi-Oh!, as many card games, is a card game where card advantage is very important, i.e. having more cards than your opponent does. And being able to draw completely for free is very, very strong. So the reason I'm playing that card is because normally in my combo, you know, I would Pendulum summon out any of the gates, use its effect on an odd-eys card, blow them both up, and then I'd summon a dragon from my extra deck. Well, Gate 0 summons a Synchro or Fusion Dragon from my extra deck. So guess what I can summon? A Gaia Armor Dragon Shell. And guess what happens after I trigger this and do whatever I'm gonna do, and I end on Vortex Dragon over here, I link these two dragon monsters into Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, and since this is a monster summoned from the extra deck, I can use this thing's effect in the graveyard to equip to it. Now that does two very important things. Number one, it actually disincentivizes your opponent from attacking Seal, because one of Hieratic Seal's biggest weakness, I don't want to say the word weakness, but one of its drawbacks is that it obviously has 0 attack, and people would often try to run it over in order to at least bait out its interruption. But now, if you try to just run it over, you're basically giving me a free card. And I've even already had times when people will literally not attack this just because they don't want to give me that extra resource. And in some game states, that is correct. You know, sometimes you really can't afford to be giving your opponent extra resources for free. So yeah, that's number one. Number two, and this is a really fun part with regards to odd-eys in specific. This thing's grave effect lets it equipped to any monster that's special summoned from the extra deck. Do you know what else is a monster special summoned from the extra deck? Anything that you Pendulum summon out from the extra deck. So in your follow-up turn, let's say that you Pendulum summon out something from the extra deck. Now, since this is obviously a monster that's summoned from the extra deck, I can once again equip this to it, and once it attacks, I'm gonna draw another card. Basically, what I'm saying is this thing will always be live. You know, you always have something to equip it to. You don't need to go into a Link play, you don't need to go into a Fusion play, you don't need to go into an Xyz play to have something this can equip to. Also, you know, it's not like it's the craziest thing in the world, but it does sometimes win games, and it shifts momentum a lot because again, you're basically out-resourcing your opponent, and you can eventually turn those extra resources into an advantage. It's just one of those cards that low-key helps you over the course of the duel. And the longer the duel is, the more that a card like this is going to put in work. But very strong card in its own right. So I like it a lot. Alright, so we have this card. F.A. Dawn Dragster. This is still the same. This is another new card. Stellar Wind Wolfraget. So I'm not playing this so much for its effect, although its effect is good. But the main reason I'm running him is because he's just the best generic Synchro 9, because it definitely does come up that sometimes I have a monster in my scale that I need to get out of my scale, and the best way to do that is with odd-eys Synchron. So yeah, it definitely comes up a couple of times. And then we have the $140 card, Baron de Fleur. Extremely good. If you own it, you definitely should play in this deck. And this single-handedly is the reason why odd-eys Synchron, in my opinion, is now mandatory in odd-eys. I'm going to explain why. Alright, so let's say you have a setup like this. You have Sky Iris, you have a low-skill odd-eys, and you have Arc Pendulum. You know, normally, at least in my case, 9 times out of 10, I would use Sky Iris to pop this, search something random, and then I'd use Arc Pendulum to summon out Dissolver, you know, for obvious reasons. But thing that happens with this is that, firstly, if you're playing against somebody that's a little bit more savvy, or that has maybe already played against you, maybe it's like game 2 or something, many times they will actually save their Ash Blossom for Arc Pendulum. Like, they won't even Ash Sky Iris because they know Arc Pendulum is literally like the best card, the single best card in your entire deck. So whenever possible, you want to be searching this dude to the hand as early as possible, be it through Sky Iris or Joker or whatever. I mean, that's pretty much only 2 cards. But also whenever you summon him to the field, usually if your opponent has something like Imperm or Veiler, they're gonna use it on him as soon as they read his effect, because they're like, nah man, that fusion summon for free, that sounds too good. So, you know, whenever possible, it's better to just grab him to hand and use him in scale than summoning him out. But there's an issue with that, and it's that we have this brand new card called Odd-eys Pendulumgraph Dragon, that if you want to use its negation effect, you need to have an empty pendulum zone. And if I were to use this dude's scale effect, well, sure, I could, you know, fuse 2 monsters and I could summon out Vortex Dragon, but I would still have my 2 scales occupied. So that's where Odd-eys Synchron comes in, because once you Skyris pop something and this summons something from the deck, you can then summon out Performapal Odd-eys Synchron, who can then use its monster effect. You know, you target a scale, you special summon it, and you synchro summon. And 2 + 8, what do you get? Baronne de Fleur, baby! And that way, you're able to clear up your scales, so if you then want to summon out Odd-eys Pendulumgraph Dragon, you can. I mean, I guess you do it first, of course, while you still have scales, right? But you can summon him out, and his negation effect is still live, because now you do have an open zone, a pendulum zone. So that's one of the main reasons I really like Synchron. And I mean, Baronne de Fleur, even if it weren't for this interaction, Baronne de Fleur is broken. I mean, it's not broken, but it's very, very good, and I'd be playing him regardless. So Baronne's good, Synchron is good, clearing up your scale is good, because Pendulumgraph is good, and it's all good. Alright, so going back to the list, basically those are my only 4 Synchro monsters. Xyz, I'm only playing 2. Red-Eyes Flare for the same reason I mentioned in the last video, and Dark-Armed the Dragon Elf Annihilation. Yo, this card puts in work. A lot of people don't run it. Again, I'm not here to tell you how to build your deck. You build it however you want to, but this thing puts in work, yo. This thing can be done with 2 or more level 7s, because it's 2+. So if you wanted to, it doesn't come up often. You can even make it with 3 monsters, although you almost always hits with 2. And his effect is not once per turn. Basically, his effect is to detach a material and pop a card on your opponent's field, pretty much for free. And so if you have 2 materials, that's 2 pops. If you have 3 materials, that's 3 pops. So in my experience, this card overperforms every single time I summon him. And he's a dragon, so I can link him off into Seal. So, you know, it is what it is. And link monsters to Seal, same as before. 1 Proxy F Magician, and one of the new babe, Beyond the Pendulum. So she is not Heavy Metal Fool's Electromite. So even though she is good when she comes up, it's not like I'm trying to turbo into her. It's not like she's part of any specific combo. She's very good to run, and you should run her if you can. But it's not like you need her for any specific combo. I'm not trying to look for any specific pendulum I don't already have, a million ways to search for. But going second, she's extremely good because of her other effect to pop 2 cards on the field. So yeah, card's very good. I like how it looks in Secret Rare. Looks very nice. And yeah, but she's just a toolbox option. Which, speaking of which, that's what I'm gonna get into right now. Talking about how to actually use the deck and what's the game plan. What are you actually trying to accomplish? Or what you should keep in mind when playing this deck. So let's talk a little bit about Odd-eys. Look, this deck is mainly an aggro deck because of the ease for it to summon a bunch of big beaters to the field and start punching over stuff. Moreover, a lot of its effects are just very aggro. Like the fact that this dude, not only his monster effect burns for an absurd amount of damage, up to 2400 damage with a single activation, but also its scale effect allows you to beat over a lot of big things. And that's the first thing. Like, Odd-eys is a very aggro deck. You're not trying to go for any specific combo. You're just trying to summon big dudes, be it from the main deck or extra deck, but you know, a lot of them in the main deck are already decently big, and you just start punching over stuff and start punching for game. Which I really like. You know, it's very fun to have that kind of a aggro deck. Just, you know, literally just Pendulum summon out your entire hand and start going for game if you can. That's number one. But number two, this deck has a lot of toolbox options, and that's the best way I would describe this deck. It's like an aggro deck. It's like an aggro toolbox deck. It's like an aggro deck, but with toolbox options. Because for starters, we have obviously Odd-eys Pendulum, which says summon anything out from your deck, and you can do this on your turn, and you can do this from your opponent's turn. My bad. Deck, hand, or graveyard. So, you know, very, very insane card. Like I said earlier, when you want a kill option, you have this. You have main deck ways to get around extra deck monsters in the form of Persona Dragon, and you have cards like Wizard Dragon, which is actually just stupid. Look, the best way I'm gonna talk about this guy is talking about one of my recent duels. I went second, right? I got scythe locked and I didn't play optimally, but you know, when I look back on it, I had a much stronger play, which is what I'm gonna talk about right now. Alright, so let's say that this is what the field looks like. Your opponent has a Baronne de Fleur that already used up its negate, and you have Pendulum and any other Odd-eys in your scale. Just like that, you just Pendulum summon out Odd-eys Wizard Dragon, nothing else. You go into battle phase. You attack into the Baronne de Fleur. You take 500. Ooh, big whoop. This gets destroyed. Now, since this was destroyed by an opponent's card, his effect triggers, and our Pendulum triggers as well. So let's just say Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. So he's gonna summon out something from the deck. Let's say you summon out Odd-eys Phantasma Dragon, and then you search out Spiral Flame Strike, and now Chainlink 1 resolves. This is gonna summon something out. You summon out again Odd-eys Wizard Dragon. Now you again can declare an attack, crash into it. His effect is gonna trigger again, summoning out something else from the deck. So let's say I'm gonna summon out Odd-eys Persona Dragon and add to my hand another Spiral Flame Strike. And now basically, just by having this card and Odd-eys Pendulum in scale, I was able to get out 2 monsters, and I was able to search out 2 Spiral Flame Strikes. And in this case, for example, I could use my Odd-eys Phantasma to crash over whatever monster they have, assuming I have anything in my extra deck face up. And I still, now in main phase 2, have my 2 Spiral Flame Strikes, which I can actually use to destroy 2 cards on their field, since this card, for whatever godforsaken reason, is not once per turn. And on top of that, you know, in this example, you can even end on something like Persona Dragon to interrupt them. And I'm taking this as an example because this is actually something that came up in one of my recent duels. I actually didn't notice I could go for this play until after the fact. What I ended up doing was that I summoned out Wizard from the deck with Pendulum, but at that point I could only crash it once, instead of being able to crash it, revive it with Pendulum, and then crash it again. But yeah, that's, dude, come on. That's very strong, because that's something that you can even do even through Scythe Lock, for example, which is what happened in that duel. And that's why I want to bring out this as an example, because this is a very toolboxy deck. You know, you can go for a lot of different things depending on the situation. And, you know, on that topic, that's why the extra deck really is, you know, it's very much player preference. Like, the only card I would say is absolutely mandatory is running at least 2 Vortex Dragon, because people always banish the first one. Mirror Jade, the Tri-Brigade Link 4, Huaquero, stupid shit, called by, fucking one of, you know, stupid shit. People always banish the first one. I mean, not always, I'm exaggerating, but you know, if the first one is banished, you always want to have a second one, and they never expect it. They're always like, oh my god, I can't believe you had another one. I can't believe you're good at this game. But yeah, so now I'm just gonna talk about some more interactions with the deck, and just some things that have come up in duels, some things you might want to keep on the lookout for. And later at the end, I am going to talk about different tech choices that I'm not playing, but that you can, you know, play if you want to. You can take into consideration. So, Mystic Mine, very fair and balanced card. Let's say your opponent activated this on you. Now, Odd-eys has main deck outs to it, amazingly enough. Spiral Flame Strike. Yo, I'm gonna talk about this later. This card is so stupid. But Generally speaking, you don't really want to wait to draw your out because you're just giving your opponent more chances to also draw good cards and be able to basically full combo you as soon as the mine is not on the field. Or maybe they're playing a deck like, I don't know, Sky Strikers, where they can just summon Hayate and punch for game, or Altergeist, where they can Mel Seek you into, for game, or some other random shit. So you don't ever really want to wait to draw your outs to Mystic Mine, if you can get rid of it earlier, I mean. So something that's really cool that actually came up for me was that I basically had Vortex and I had some other stuff, but I had to clear it out of the way because I didn't want to have more than one monster under Mystic Mine in case my opponent did start playing. So I basically had Vortex Dragon and I had Sky Iris. And something that's really cool, this isn't here. Imagine that's not there. Something really cool that you can do is that you can Sky Iris to pop your odd-eys Vortex Dragon, to search odd-eys Pendulum Dragon, the original, scale it, and pass turn. What's going to happen in the end phase is that Mystic Mine is going to do its mandatory check whenever there's the same amount of monsters. It's going to blow itself up. And now that it's blown itself up, once again, you can do any fast effects or trigger effects if you want before passing, before actually ending your end phase. So you can then use odd-eys Pendulum's end phase scale effect to pop itself, search any monster with 0 attack, doesn't really matter what you search. And oh, would you look at that, a odd-eys card just destroyed itself. Well, guess what? Odd-eys Arc triggers and you're able to summon out odd-eys Vortex Dragon again. So basically that's another way that you can out Mystic Mine if you're not able to draw this card early enough, but you're able to draw, for example, Sky Iris. Alright, something else to keep in mind is that odd-eys Pendulumgraph Dragon is actually a light attribute monster, which comes up in 2 main scenarios. Well, actually 3, but okay, a couple. Point is, it comes up. So firstly, by being a light, it can't be super polyed, at least not for Starving Venom. So if you know you're going up against something that plays super poly, I mean, this is probably good anyways because it's probably just a a fusion deck. But you can also summon this as a card that isn't gonna get super polyed away, or at least they're gonna have to summon something else that isn't Starving or Dragostapelia in order to super poly this away. But unfortunately, that also hinders your strategy a little bit, because for example, if you want to use Supreme King Darkwurm's scale effect to basically put another gate from your deck in your Pendulum zone, so for example, if you want to activate it as a scale and use its effect in the scale to place this in your other Pendulum scale, this is going to lock you into only being able to Pendulum summon out dark monsters. So you wouldn't be able to actually Pendulum summon this out if you go for that play. So that's something else to keep in mind. Actually, while on topic, this only ever once came up for me, but it won me the game. So I might as well talk about it. Yo, this motherfucker can be Pendulum summoned out because he's a level 12 monster. And guess what? You have a level 13 scale right here. Granted, this thing is also a light, so you also can't do it. Like if you use this to scale this, you can't Pendulum summon this out that turn. But if you already had this from a previous turn, maybe you drew it or maybe you searched it for whatever reason, and your board gets cleared, which is what happened to me in that scenario, you're actually able to Pendulum summon this dude out. And this dude's on-field effect is actually just insane. This dude gains attack and defense equal to half your opponent's life points. Okay, sure, whatever. Once per turn, you can pay half your life points, so it's always activatable. Shuffle all other cards on the field and graveyards into the deck, basically taking away all follow-up from your opponent. But if you still have cards in your hand, specifically if you still have like scales in your hand that you can activate afterwards, then you're going to be able to keep Pendulum summoning out other stuff, because you can, you can scale, and you still have your extra deck, whatever is in your face-up extra deck to Pendulum summon out and keep going. So, it might never come up for you, might come up for you a couple times. I really don't know, but I mean, hey, it's good to know. Something else to keep in mind is that this guy's effect to Synchro Summon is actually not once per turn, or at least not hard once per turn. So you could normal summon him, use his effect to synchro summon with one of your scales, then later pendulum summon him out, and then use his effect again on, you know, whatever skill, whatever new skill you have. So you could use it up to twice per turn in that way. So just something to keep in mind. So just to drive the point home, this card is a card that searches. This is a card that for free destroys cards your opponent controls. And this card is also a card that is not hard once per turn or soft once per turn or any kind of once per turn. And it is a card that it itself is searchable by a card that is also searchable. In fact, these two motherfuckers search each other, which is actually so stupid. What I want to say with that, yo, have you ever heard of Engage? Have you ever heard of any card that isn't once per turn and searches and can do all sorts of shit? Yeah, this is similar to them. Obviously, I'm not saying this is Engage level broken, but I'm just saying this is an extremely strong card, especially the fact that it's searchable by Wizard. And you really should keep that in your mind in every single duel you play, because this is actually one of the single most stupid cards in the whole deck, because it's searchable by a card that is also searchable. You know, search and search and search and search, right? So just keep that in mind, yo. These cards, very, very good, and they will win you games if played correctly. Also, because a lot of the time you're gonna be crashing your cards into your opponent when going second, because you want to trigger Arc Pendulum. It's nifty to note that this dude's scale effect says you can reduce the battle damage you take from an attack involving a Pendulum monster you control to 0. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If your opponent only has one monster on the field that's in attack position and you need to crash into it to trigger this thing, well, you can at least mitigate the damage by using this thing's scale effect. So that is definitely something that, you know, depending on the scenario, could come up. So onto different tech choices that I've thought about. Firstly, I've thought about putting a level 8 Synchro in the deck, because Performapal odd-eys Synchron, his scale effect can turn any odd-eys or Performapal monster into a level 1 tuner. And since all of my deck is level 7, well, you know, 1 plus 7 makes 8. So Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer is another card that some people like to play, because when he's summoned, you can pop an odd-eys card, and that way you can trigger Arc Pendulum. So, you know, you can play him if you want. I don't like him. I mean, I tried him. You know, I've tried him in deck. I didn't like it. But this is another tech option you can go for. But if you were to play 2 Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer, you could summon them both out, use their effects, or one of them, to pop any card and search odd-eys Synchron to the hand. Use odd-eys Synchron in the scale to turn one of them into a level 1 tuner. And oh, would you look at that? I have a level 1 tuner that's an earth, and a level 4 non-tuner that's also an earth. Naturia Beast, baby. You can synchro summon them into this stupid card, which obviously is basically just Imperial Order. So again, it's purely gimmicky. I'm not even gonna lie. It's kind of, I don't want to say purely, but it's kind of gimmicky. But you could do it, and it's not like you're running any bricks to do it. If you're assuming you're already running 2 of these, right? So you know it's technically doable, right? But I just wanted to share that because I thought it was funny. So other things I've taken into consideration. Actually, a lot of the cards from Dragon Link are cards that you can play here. For example, if you wanted to, you could play things like Starleaf Seyfert to search your cards. You could play something like Phantasma to help you fix your hand, and it's also a dragon. You could play things like Noctovision, which is a level 7 Dark Dragon. You could Pendulum out, or you could just summon it out with its own effect. Those were the 3 main cards I was looking at, but yeah, basically, you know, there's a couple of the things in the Dragon Link toolbox which you also could incorporate into this if you wanted to. So something else to keep in mind is that these guys can summon any fusion, synchro, or Xyz dragon monster from your extra deck to the field. So obviously, like I said earlier, my target is Dragon Shell, but you could also run cards like, for example, Albion the Branded Dragon, which obviously can get you into branded plays. You can also run cards like Titaniclad, or really any of the, you know, Albaz family dragons, which all have grave effects. But yeah, basically any Synchron or Fusion Dragon monster with a gray effect can be summoned with this. So, you know, definitely keep that in mind. So, you know, in this deck, I really wish I could run like hand traps or go second cards aside from the one of triple tactics. But the thing is, you know, the way the deck plays, you really do need most of the cards in your hand to make a play. That's just how the deck plays. That's how most or many Pendulum decks play. You know, that's just the nature of the deck. So, you know, it's something I wish I could do, but for the time being, you know, yeah, it is what it is. You know, you got to play to your strength, not to your weaknesses, right? That being said, you know, there are also some people I know that like to main deck kaijus, specifically like Radiant, because he's a dark for a lure, and he's a level 7, which you can Pendulum summon out if you want to. And that definitely is pretty interesting. Also, how could I forget? But bro, aren't you gonna ritual summon this guy? Aren't you gonna play a ritual spell? Aren't you gonna brick? I'm playing a ritual spell? Nigga, fuck that shit. Like, this dude's effect to negate is his only good effect. That's not what I... Okay, that's not the way to put it. This guy's best effect is his effect to negate. You don't need to ritual summon him out for that. So there's no point in playing a ritual summon spell, which is a brick, to basically summon him out, when you could just Pendulum summon him out for free. Without having to also tribute a monster, you know, when you ritual summon. So you're basically going neg to do the same thing you could do by Pendulum summoning him out. And yes, I know he can summon out something from the extra deck if he's ritual summoned, but I mean, what odd-eys monster are you actually summoning that's worthwhile? I can already turbo out Vortex Dragon with my eyes closed. I don't need to summon more Vortex Dragons, right? So unless Konami makes some crazy odd-eys monster from the extra deck, you know, XCs or whatever, you don't really need to be ritual summoning this dude out. But if you do want to, something you can consider is... These nuts got him! A card like Advanced Ritual Art, because this lets you ritual summon by sending a normal monster from your deck to your grave. And oh, would you look at that? Arc Pendulum is obviously a normal monster, so basically it's a free ritual summon. So this is probably the best ritual spell you can play if you're going to play any ritual spell at all. But again, you really don't need it. Like, this dude's good effect doesn't need to be ritual summoned for it, so, you know, it's whatever. Alright, I'm going to speed through these because otherwise I'm never going to finish. Alright, so Pendulum Paradox, very interesting card. Infernoble Knight, Synchro 9, what's his name? Charles, I think. I don't really give a damn. I only thought about him because, you know, he triggers when things get equipped, and this thing can equip 2 things. So, you know, Synchro Summon Charles, equip, pop, you know. But no, that's kind of silly. But you could do it. You could, if you wanted to. IP Masquerena for IP Masquerena reasons. Things that you can summon off of Hieratic Seal, like Fallen Valbas, Amorphous Sloth, the Empowered Dragon, what's his name? Anything really that you can summon off of Seal. Even though you already have, you know, decent targets, but, you know, whatever. The Blackluster Soldier link, since it's very easy to summon and it gives you 2 arrows. Oh, and if you really want to go for the ritual route, then Odd-eys Gravity Dragon is actually a really cool card. But, you know, it's more gimmicky, and it only works against some matchups, not all. So, you know, it's whatever. But if you could get multiples of that nigga on the field, and you can also summon 1 or 2 Red-Eyes Flare Metal, then you know what I'm saying? Then you can start burning your opponent to death, and that would be pretty funny. So, you know, that's also something you could technically do. But let me, you know, you gotta show the shine on these cards, man. Also, something else you can run is things like the Charmer links, specifically the Dark Charmer, to make it easier to go, for example, into Axis Scope plays and, you know, kill your opponent. So, you know, that's something else that you can consider. Also, if you ever have both of the gates in your scales, you can actually use Supreme King Gate Zero's scale effect, which will blow them both up and search any fusion or polymerization spell in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So do with that information as you wish. Also, you know, as one last thing, maybe it's just me, and I know you can't see it the same way because of the camera, but I find it so beautiful the way it looks when you have Arc Pendulum and Pendulumgraph in the scale. Yeah, it just looks amazing. So yeah, that's about it for my deck profile update. As always, if you have anything you want to ask, just leave a comment and I will most likely answer. And yeah, I fucking love this deck. You know, it's very fun. You know, it's not the most competitive, not because it's bad. It's just you know, relatively easy to stop if you have multiple interruptions. Particularly when the deck is going first. Actually, somebody asked me about this. Like, why do I keep saying it's easier to go second than to go first? Well, it's because when you're going first, you're actually trying to set up a specific board. You know, you're trying to play it a more combo style, which isn't really what the deck is trying to do. When you're going second, you don't have to think about anything. You literally left scale, right scale, and pendulum summon out your whole hand. That's it. You don't really have to think about much else. And obviously, depending on what your opponent does or doesn't do, then you start going into your different toolbox options. But you know, that's the point. Because this is a toolbox deck, it's not like I'm trying to, you know, it's not like Flunder where I need to, okay, Robina, search Aiglin, search Empen, you know, do this whole linear thing. What I'm saying is this isn't a linear deck, you know, this isn't, when going second at least, it's not a linear deck. You basically just summon out your whole hand and you try to go for game if you can, or if not, then you start clearing your opponent's board with your different toolbox options, like abusing this guy not being once per turn to search this, which is also not once per turn. Retarded. You know, using this to deal big damage, using this to get over shit. Sometimes using this to deal big damage, but doesn't really come up often. And if you can't kill them, then that's when you start going into more of your extra deck plays to start controlling the game. But yeah, man, I love this deck. It's very fun to play. I love pendulum summoning because it's such a stupid mechanic. It's always fun to pendulum summon. And yeah, man, I don't want to say goodbye, but goodbye for now. Peace. Have a great day.